The Mayflower Compact, signed on November 11, 1620, was a pivotal moment in American history that laid the groundwork for self-governance and democratic principles in the New World. To fully appreciate the significance of this event, we must understand the context surrounding the Pilgrims' journey and their early experiences in America. Life before the journey. The story of the Mayflower Pilgrims begins in early 17th century England, a time of religious and political turmoil. The Church of England, established by King Henry VIII, was the official state religion. However, not all were satisfied with its practices and doctrines. The Separatists. A group known as the Separatists believed that the Church of England was too similar to the Catholic Church and wanted to form their own congregations. This was a dangerous stance, as it was seen as a challenge to both the Church and the Crown. The Separatists faced persecution, fines, and even imprisonment for their beliefs. Among these Separatists was a congregation from Scrooby, Nottinghamshire, led by William Bradford and William Brewster. Facing increasing pressure and harassment, they made the difficult decision to flee their homeland. Life in Holland. In 1608, the Scrooby congregation escaped to the Netherlands, eventually settling in the city of Leiden. The Dutch Republic offered greater religious freedom, allowing the Separatists to worship as they pleased. However, life in Holland was not without its challenges. Many of the English immigrants struggled to adapt to Dutch society. They found work in the cloth trades as carpenters, tailors, and printers, but the labor was hard and the hours long. Even children had to work to help support their families. The Separatists also worried about losing their English identity, as they saw their children being influenced by Dutch culture. Moreover, political tensions were rising in Europe, and the Separatists feared that war might break out between the Dutch and Spanish. After about 12 years in Leiden, the congregation began to consider yet another move: the decision to sail to America. The idea of establishing a new colony in America began to take shape. The Separatists saw this as an opportunity to create a society based on their religious principles, while maintaining their English heritage. They also hoped to spread their faith to the native inhabitants of the New World. However, such an endeavor required significant resources. The congregation entered into an agreement with a group of English investors known as the Merchant Adventurers. These investors would provide ships and supplies, while the colonists would work for the company, sending back natural resources like fish, timber, and furs. The Voyage. The journey to America was fraught with setbacks from the very beginning. Two ships were initially prepared for the voyage: the Speedwell and the Mayflower. However, the Speedwell proved unseaworthy, forcing the travelers to crowd onto the Mayflower alone. On September 6, 1620, the Mayflower set sail from Plymouth, England, carrying 102 passengers and about 30 crew members. The passengers were a mix of Separatists, whom they called saints, and other colonists, whom they referred to as strangers. The journey across the Atlantic was arduous. The ship was crowded, and many passengers suffered from seasickness. Storms battered the vessel, and at one point, a main beam cracked, threatening the structural integrity of the ship. Despite these challenges, only one passenger died during the crossing, while one baby, Oceanus Hopkins, was born at sea. Arrival in the New World. After 66 days at sea, the Mayflower sighted land on November 9th, 1620. However, they soon realized they were far north of their intended destination near the Hudson River. After some exploration, they decided to settle at what is now Plymouth, Massachusetts. The Mayflower Compact. Before disembarking, the male passengers gathered in the ship's cabin to address a pressing issue. Because they had landed outside the territory specified in their patent, they lacked a legal basis for governance. To prevent potential discord, they drafted and signed the Mayflower Compact. The compact was a simple but profound document. It established that the colonists would form a civil body politic to enact just and equal laws for the general good of the colony. This agreement set a precedent for self-governance based on the consent of the governed, a principle that would later influence the Founding Fathers. First winter and early challenges. The Pilgrims' first winter in Plymouth was brutal. They arrived late in the year, with little time to build adequate shelter before the cold set in. Many remained on the Mayflower, which offered some protection from the elements. Disease swept through the colony, exacerbated by malnutrition and exposure. By spring, nearly half of the original passengers and crew had died. The survivors, however, persevered, buoyed by their faith and determination. Relations with Native Americans. The Pilgrims' interactions with the local Native American tribes were complex. The area where they settled had been home to the Patuxet people, but a recent epidemic had decimated the population. In March 1621, the colonists were surprised by a Native American named Samoset, who greeted them in English. Soon after, they met Squanto, a Patuxet who had been enslaved by English explorers but had returned to his homeland. Squanto became an invaluable intermediary and teacher, showing the Pilgrims how to cultivate native crops like corn. Through Squanto's assistance, the Pilgrims established a peace treaty with the powerful Wampanoag chief Massasoit. This alliance would help ensure the colony's survival in its early years. Building the colony. As spring arrived, the survivors began to build their settlement in earnest. They constructed houses, established farms, and created a system of governance. William Bradford, one of the original Separatist leaders, was elected governor, a position he would hold for most of the next 3 decades. The Pilgrims faced numerous challenges in establishing their colony. They had to adapt to an unfamiliar environment, learn new agricultural techniques, and navigate relationships with native tribes. Their religious beliefs provided a strong sense of purpose and community, helping them persevere through hardships. The first Thanksgiving. In the fall of 1621, after their first successful harvest, the Pilgrims held a 3-day feast to celebrate and give thanks. This event, attended by both colonists and Native Americans, is often cited as the origin of the American Thanksgiving holiday. While the historical accuracy of this narrative has been debated, it reflects the colonists' gratitude for their survival and the assistance they received. Legacy of Plymouth Colony. Although Plymouth was eventually absorbed into the larger Massachusetts Bay Colony, its impact on American history and culture has been profound. The Mayflower Compact set a precedent for democratic self-governance that would influence the development of American political institutions. The story of the Pilgrims, with its themes of religious freedom, perseverance in the face of adversity, and cooperation between European settlers and Native Americans, has become a central part of America's founding mythology. While the reality was often more complex and fraught than the popular narrative suggests, the Plymouth colonists' experiment in creating a new society in the wilderness left an indelible mark on the American character. In conclusion, the signing of the Mayflower Compact on November 11, 1620, was more than just a practical solution to an immediate problem of governance. It was a bold step towards self-determination, taken by a group of people who had already risked everything for their beliefs. Their journey from persecuted minority in England to founders of a new colony in America is a testament to human resilience and the power of shared purpose. The legacy of Plymouth Colony and the Mayflower Compact continues to resonate in American political and cultural life, serving as a reminder of the nation's complex origins and the enduring quest for freedom and self-governance.